The next thing that I found really interesting, and me and James were geeking out over this, really, we were getting very excited, to put it politely, is the BRICS countries. And I think this is very underreported in most medias around the world. So this is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they have grouped together to call the BRICS countries. Mm-hmm. And their sole purpose is to trade in non-US dollar currencies. Mm-hmm. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to move away from the US dollar. On the 25th of April, 2023, it was announced that 19 additional countries have expressed interest in joining these BRICS countries, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Turkey, Mexico. And it's very, very interesting, this shift away from US dollars. They're trying to distance themselves because they can see what's happening. The US dollar is in trouble. So these are big economies as well, huge populations, big shifts. And whereas the West typically has been very dominant, it's getting to the point now that the growth in the West is slowing down. And these countries, the BRICS countries, are seeing massive amounts of growth and ones to watch. For the first time ever, the BRICS countries, their share of global GDP surpassed that of the G7 countries. So the G7 being Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK, and US. And this is a big move. So the BRICS countries contribute 31.5% of global GDP, G7 fallen to 30%. And it's expected that by 2030, the BRICS countries will contribute over 50% of the world's GDP.
Well, I can update you on that. The countries that have joined BRICS, you're absolutely right. There's 19. There's even more than that now. That actually takes it to 77%.
Wow! Wow!
There you go.
And I've got a list of all of the countries that have joined, and the ones that have applied. The ones that have applied to join have already been accepted. And there is over 20 now, well over 20 other major countries. Yeah. Egypt obviously was an early one. Afghanistan is massive. Algeria, Argentina, Iran is huge. Saudi Arabia is huge because Saudi Arabia was pegged to the dollar for the petrol. Kazakhstan, huge economy. Nicaragua, Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Iraq, Cambodia, Senegal, Thailand, the United Arab Emirates. The United Kingdom has already joined BRICS behind the scenes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And they're actually going to use sterling silver as the asset to back their currency. Costa Rica, Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, Bolivia, Chile, Cuba, Ecuador, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, Azerbaijan. These next countries, people have underestimated them. Azerbaijan, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. These are huge countries. Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Turkey. I mean, Turkey I know this because of my wife. People forget how big Istanbul is, one of the largest cities in the world. If you take China out of the equation, largest city in the world would be Istanbul. Germany have been accepted into BRICS, which then basically waves goodbye to the EU or to the European Union. So they're currently up over 77%.
Wow,
it's a huge shift, huge shift.
I thought you were being very generous in the first picture of the US coming down and the China going up, because they've actually passed already.
Sure.
And that was a very generous picture showing that the US is on the way down. It's past the point of no return.
That's what's really interesting to know what you'd have to say, Charlie, because we know that you'd know. I think that we thought that you'd know a little bit more.
But this is the beauty of what we're doing. We're not controlled by the deep state. We're out there finding out information, and by coming together, I can't do this by myself, and I'm very, very grateful for everybody else that's doing the legwork. There are, as General Flynn was saying the other day, there are so many good digital warriors out there. None of us have got all the answers. None of us.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is putting pieces of the puzzle together to establish that, because mainstream media is not.
Yeah. And as we always say, go and do your own research. We're just saying this is our conclusion from the information we've seen. We're connecting the dots, and we're seeing a general trend away from the US dollar. I think one thing we took note as well that you said, Charlie, is I think people underestimate the fact of Saudi Arabia. Because when you look back through history, the US and Saudi Arabia have such a close connection.
Yeah.
Essentially, what the US said is, look, you sell oil, and Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, oil producer in the world.
Yeah.
And the US said to Saudi Arabia, look, you only sell oil in US dollars, and we'll basically protect you, look after you, make sure that you're not bothered. Okay.
Yeah.
On the global stage. You never used to hear much about Saudi Arabia. So what that meant is the US are pulling all the strings on the US dollar, and people needed US dollars. They relied on the US because they wanted those US dollars to buy the oil. And it meant that everyone had to toe the line. And if they didn't do what the US said, then the US can cut them off from US dollars, cut them off from the SWIFT system, and do all these things that we've seen them do to Russia and other countries. The fact that Saudi Arabia are joining BRICS, there was an article saying that, and again, you have to search for this stuff. It's not like the front page of the BBC, for example. Saudi Arabia are open to selling oil in non-US currencies, non-US dollar currencies. And that's huge, because for them to be part of BRICS, they have to be open to it, because that's the whole point of the group. And I think equally, the fact of the US sanctioning Russia and saying basically you can't play anymore, you can't use US dollars, you can't be part of the SWIFT system, that's only accelerated this group. It's accelerated the move again away from US dollars. So I don't think the US have tried to be the big bully in the playground, and what they've done is they've just pushed another group together even quicker than before. Yeah. These countries have their own bank as well. It's almost like their own central bank, and big players, absolutely big players in the world. And clearly, it's very attractive to other countries. They're clearly wanting to join and wanting to be part of this. And I think they've seen how the US has switched countries off from the SWIFT system and said, we don't want to be vulnerable to that. Yeah. Let's join this group. A big shift. It's really, really big. And we don't hear about it. But throughout all of this, through the US being in decline, struggling with their debt ceiling, and another group forming to move away from that, it's all pulling in the same direction. Yeah. And that is that the US and the US dollar is under attack, and it opens the door for China.
Of course it does.
No question. Yeah. No question.
Yeah. Calling all US citizens. Check out the link in the description to get your free Goldbusters ebook.